Hello and welcome to the Hibs Observer Thursday afternoon briefing with myself, Liam Bryce, joined from the Netherlands by Patrick McPartlin and, of course, sponsored by MPH Group. Just another quick video, folks, to kind of update you on what's been happening over on the continent. Hibs obviously still going through their pre-season training camp, and Patrick is there to bring you all the latest. So, tell us, Patrick, how are you? What's been happening? Anything interesting to tell us today?
Uh, a lot of bike riding by myself,
It's a
and I
theme
think the
developing
team.
here.
There is a theme, yeah. It's good. It's good. It's obviously a country known for its dedication to making sure cyclists have everything they need, so it does make things much easier. And yeah, yeah, just a total convert, really. Very easy way of getting around, and it's health benefits are there. Get to see the countryside. I'm fully on board with it. Even when we've got weather like Edinburgh or Glasgow or wherever yesterday, torrential rain to begin with in the morning, giving way to just sort of like a bit more kind of summery sun, which has carried on into today, which is a welcome change because it has been a little bit grey. Bit cloudy, and I think when you think about a pre-season training camp or a summer training camp, you think of players doing triple sessions in blistering heat,
Yeah.
ice baths, sweat lashing off them and things like
Guys
that.
standing
So
in wheelie bins full of ice. That's a classic.
exactly, it's not quite been that hot, but
No.
it's certainly getting to that stage, and um, it wasn't a triple session day for the players today, and I think they're probably quite grateful for that because it is sort of getting up to sort of 19, 20 here at the moment. And obviously it's not as bad as doing it in 30-degree heat in Spain or Portugal like we've done in the last couple of seasons. But I think after the sort of fairly mild weather to begin with this week, it might be a bit of a shock to the system for quite a few of the players.
Yeah. Did you get a nosy at the training session at all today? As you said there, I'd imagine it'd probably be kind of recovery orientated after having a game, and I'm assuming there was probably a session, at least one session before the game yesterday as well. Is it a bit lighter today?
Yeah, don't want to give too much away in case anyone from Pauk is watching this and could use it to shape their tactics for Saturday's game. But yeah, I think not so much a heavy sort of schedule today. I think one of the things that's been really noticeable from sort of being around the players and the training camp is that there's a lot of hard work going on in terms of fitness, but it's also that kind of team bonding as well because you've got I know you've only got like 3 new players in, but you do have players who've come back from loan spells who maybe haven't been at the club for a while, and it's just about kind of fostering that kind of new team spirit underneath a new head coach in Dave Gray, and I think that sort of thing's going really well. So there was a bit of bike work today, as you say, some recovery work from yesterday, some stretching. Um, you know, Players got through the game without any injuries. All 22 players used. Um, so I think just making sure that they're still taking over and just avoiding any sort of bad things happening before Pout, because obviously Dave Gray wants his full squad available for that to um, try out a few more things and just to kind of test, the players test themselves against a higher caliber of opposition. And I imagine we'll probably see, rather than sort of like two different teams for each 45, you can imagine probably seeing some players playing for maybe a bit longer, 60, 70
Yeah.
minutes, just to increase the amount they're doing, because that trip to Elgin, the first competitive game of the season, is
It's
it's just over a
looming,
week away.
isn't it?
It is
It's looming.
fast approaching on the
Aye.
horizon, and yeah, I think obviously the players have to be ready for that. The team has to be ready for that. So,
Aye.
I'm not entirely sure it will be as easy going for the players tomorrow. I think it could be quite a strenuous training session tomorrow. But today it was a bit more relaxed,
Mhm.
a bit more focused on recovery and just making sure they're all in good working order.
Yeah, because it's always the way of it in pre-season. Like the first couple of friendlies, you can never really glean too much from them. But the kind of closer it gets to the competitive kickoff, like it's when the sort of shape of the team, the players involved, starts to take on more of the form of what the manager is going to be looking for. And it's obviously it's especially interesting this year when you've got a new manager and a first-time manager as well. With we don't really know as yet what David Gray is going to try and do with this side. So I'd imagine Saturday coming will be a really kind of fascinating insight into what he's looking to do going forward. But just in terms of from the camp, you got to sit down with Nathan Mariah Welsh as well. How was he?
Yeah, in good form.
Sounding optimistic.
Yes,
yeah,
that's
very optimistic.
Does feel like, I mean, there does feel like a lot of optimism, around the camp. And I know you can sort of say, oh well, it's pre-season, it's always like that. But I think, when you consider that there's a lot of players in the squad who were, part of the team last season, who know that it wasn't good enough, and know that finishing 8th isn't acceptable, and I suppose are just sort of really desperate to sort of right a few wrongs this season. And there's a couple of players. We've got another interview going out later today with a member of the first team squad who's probably being quite hard on himself, but just saying that he wasn't really anywhere where he should be in terms of his levels last season, and that's something he wants to change. And I think Nathan was kind of saying the same, picking out aspects of his game and saying, this was good, that was good, in terms of his sort of his work off the ball, getting around the pitch, putting tackles in, but his sort of work on the ball is what he feels he needs to improve on. So, I mean, I'd imagine Dave Gray has probably sat down with all the players and has spoken to them about where he feels their strengths and weaknesses are. He's made a big point of saying that he knows the players already, so there's not that sort of learning curve where he's sort of getting to know new players because he's just come in the door. He's played alongside some of these players. He's coached many of them before as well, or he's been part of the coaching staff when they've been playing on a Saturday. So interesting to hear the players sort of saying, it's not just the usual kind of cliches about we need to do better next season. It is sort of a very kind of it's a very personal thing with us saying, like, I need to improve on this, I need to improve on that. I wasn't good enough last season. And I think there is that determination collectively and individually to just sort of try and put last season behind them, but also not just forget it, to sort of use it to kind of really push them on this season. And there's a lot of chat about really wanting to sort of start well against Elgin, because that's the first competitive game, and you start well in the League Cup, then it sets you up nicely for going into the Premiership games at the start of August. And I think that's really it's the message that Dave's given the players, and it's the the players seem to have bought into it as well. I mean, the game, we talked about this a bit yesterday. The game against Duisburg yesterday was a little bit feisty, and it's what always seems to happen in these pre-season games. And I think you get the sense that there are some players who they're here, they're doing the fitness work, they're more than happy to be doing it, but more than anything else, they just want to get back out onto a pitch at a competitive game and start putting a few wrongs right. So it's it's a healthy attitude to have, I think, and I think it's something that Dave himself is probably leading on. Just the kind of guy he is, the kind of player he was when he was still playing. It's it's all, I think it's all linked. But I think hard to fault Nathan for what he was saying, and you forget sometimes that he has I think he's only just really turned 22, because he speaks with the authority of somebody much older, somebody who's been around the block a few times and seen it all before. And I think having that sort of old head on young shoulders, if you like, is going to be really useful, not just for Dave, but for the other players in the squad. So I think really interesting to hear from him, because obviously a lot of the focus has been on the new players, because there's the 3 new signings, and a new head coach as well. So there's chatting to him and about his plans, how he feels pre-season's going, and things like that. But it's it's good to sort of hear from the players who were here last season, and just where they felt things went wrong, and how they're sort of planning to fix it.
Yeah, and this will be Nathan Ryan Welsh's first full season at Hibs. He's kind of, it's almost a cliche at this point, but it's that thing people say, I'd like to see what he could do with a full pre-season under his belt, and I think it does apply to him, because he wasn't playing enough, from memory, wasn't playing an awful lot of football before he came. and he's kind of one of those guys who, as you say, he speaks with that kind of sort of air of authority, kind of maturity. It was the word I was looking for there, kind of above his years. And it's interesting that he's kind of identified areas of his game that he wants to improve without necessarily being told, right, this is where you need to get better. He's clearly sat down and watched himself back and had a look at where he can do better. So again, interesting to see how he comes on as well. And interview, you said, coming soon on the website.
Yes, I think if people do want to head to the Hibs Observer website around about now, they will see Martin Boyle's smiling face at the top of the site. Sat down with Boyle today, and just good to hear from him, really, because I think a lot of things that he wanted to address, and being very the word is, I think he was very sort of keen to sort of set the record straight on those comments about playing in the A-League and how things are just sort of snowballed a little bit. So if you haven't seen it on the site yet, you can go and see it now. You'll see it on Twitter. But Martin Boyle is very much staying at Hibs, not going anywhere, and is very much looking forward to putting in much better performance this season than he did last season. He's another player who felt that he wasn't at his best, and I think there were times when it didn't really seem like he was particularly happy, or I don't know what it was. It was just he didn't seem to be his usual kind of perpy self. But I think towards the end of the season, we did.
It was a difficult time for him, to be fair, wasn't it? He'd been kind of
gone
through a lot, wasn't he? Yeah.
Obviously, coming back from the injury and probably coming back a bit sooner than he wanted to, and not really having the same sort of pre-season and things like that. I think it's, he's the kind of player that you always want on your team. You always want him playing. But, very kind of direct comments, I think, about his performances just, not being good enough. And I think, seems to be very happy at the moment. He, seems to be doing really well at the training camp, just in terms of just being the Martin Boyle that we all know and that we all love, I suppose. And he got the captain's armband for the first half against Duisburg yesterday, and it's just interesting that he's getting that sort of responsibility from David Gray. It was his corner that led to the only goal of the game as well. So obviously didn't play a part on Saturday against Edinburgh City because he'd been on international duty and got extra time off, but he's come back and his first game back, his first involvement, he's got an assist, and he didn't really give the defence a moment's rest. Drew quite a few fouls as well because he just couldn't really cope with his pace and his trickery, and I think he'll be looking to get a bit more game time on Saturday against PAOK as well. But yeah, just really, I think sort of really kind of adamant that his love for Hibs hasn't waned. I think the direct quote was something like, he's living and breathing Hibs. And, it was just he wanted to set the record straight and essentially just say, look, I wasn't talking about now, I was talking about at some point in the future. And, it's always hard. I think, things get taken out of context, and, what it's like in this industry in football, that, things snowball. And, I think there were, it's probably not helped when the Perth Glory director of football was asked about it and didn't really do much to to cool the speculation.
No,
and I think
quite the opposite.
It's always difficult when something like that happens. You make a comment and it kind of spirals out of control. But I think just Boyle obviously very happy at Hibs, not going anywhere, and I think another one who's just really eager to hit the ground running. And I just think it'll be, as one of the senior players now, you've got Paul Hanlon and Lewis Stevenson have left now, so you're going to be looking to people like Martin Boyle, who's been here for a considerable amount of time. I think coming on 10 years, if we kind of forget about that short stint in Saudi Arabia. So he is one of the senior players. He is one of those players who will probably be given additional responsibilities in and around the dressing room, the training grounds, just as somebody who can sort of uphold the standards and say, look, you're playing for Hibs. This is what's expected, and really kind of leading on that. So yeah, I think good for the fans to know that he's not going anywhere, and good for Martin to feel that he's kind of cleared the air a bit or set the record straight, because I think there was still a lot of supporters who I think were almost resigned to him leaving, and I think Martin very very anxious to to confirm that he is very much not going anywhere. So I think that's a sort of, it's a little boost, I think, for for Hibs as a squad, and also for the fan base. So it's a bit like that. It's a bit like that Wolf of Wall Street scenery sort of shouts, "I'm not leaving." It was a bit like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, because you were right in saying that it very quickly went from kind of zero to a lot of people had just thought, all right, well, he's off then. It's kind of that's that. It sounded a wee bit kind of like that at the time, and it's obviously not the way that he meant it to come across. And I think he was kind of continually put on the spot as well, because he was interviewed after it was 2 games in a row, wasn't he? You get asked about the the exact same things, and he's clearly been like, oh no, I've just given I've kind of over-egged that there compared to what it actually is. So as as Patrick says, it's up there on the website now. We weren't allowed to bring you that before 5 o'clock, but we transitioned quite nicely into.
I thought we did, yeah.
And as soon as the embargo was lifted, we timed it absolutely perfectly. So that is there on the website for you to read, folks. It kind of probably, well, it should, and will put kind of any fears over Martin Boyle's future. It'll put those to rest.
There will be more to come as well. There's a kind of second part to it where. Boyle's just sort of speaking a bit more at length about those extra responsibilities, how he felt as a captain in the team yesterday in the friendly, and just a bit about coming back from international duty. Like he came back in before he was scheduled to, because he's just that kind of keen to, I suppose, like a few of his teammates, just make amends for last season, and just really hit the ground running. And I have to say he was looking sharp yesterday. Again, it's a 4th division German team. It's hard to, it's also a pre-season friendly, like we were saying. It is hard to gauge, but what you're getting with Martin Boyle, and you're going to get pace, you're going to get trickery, you're going to ideally get goals and assists. But like I say, a bit more to come from him. So that will be dropping on the website pretty soon. So do keep an eye out for that as well. And obviously, I'm just stealing your sunshine here, Liam. Sorry, I'm just taking over here, but we will have more. We will have more coming from the training camp. Spoke to David Gray today at length, so there'll be some stuff from the head coach coming out tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock UK time, I think, thereabouts. So that's good to hear from him, just on how the training camp's going, and just a bit more on his thoughts about the team. And just don't want to give anything more away, but it would be remiss of me not to encourage you all to subscribe if you haven't already. hibsobserver.co.uk/subscribe. It's on the ticker below, and take advantage of our £4 for 4 months offer, or £18 for a whole year, which coincidentally will also get you coverage for the entire season. And obviously I'm biased, but I think that's a good deal. Lots more content to come from this training camp, so do keep an eye on the socials and the website.
Well, there you go, folks. I have nothing to add, just except to just do exactly as Patrick says there. It is well worth it, in our humble opinion. So yeah, we're going to leave you there for today. Thanks as always for joining us. Thanks to Patrick as well for tuning in from over there in the Netherlands. We will be back in the very near future to bring you more from the training camp. So do keep an eye on our YouTube channel and the website for more of that. But again, folks, thanks as always for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll catch you again very soon. Cheers.